Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Crystaltimes CT056 Double Dome Sapphire Crystal. This crystal is available from usa.crystaltimes.net for $39 US. It's also available from seikomods.com for £40 British. Crystaltimes are well established. They were founded in California in America in 2012, and I've been using their crystals since I started watch modding in 2018. So I started modding Vostok Amphibias, Seiko 5KXs, Seiko Turtles and Steinhardt Ocean 1s, and that was when I first discovered Crystaltimes Sapphire crystals, and I've used their crystals since 2018 to the present day. For example, you may have seen my review of my modded Casio Juro MDV106, which used a double dome sapphire crystal with AR coating that was supplied by Crystaltimes. So firstly, let's look at the packaging that the crystal comes in and the accessories it comes with, and then I will show you the watch on wrist. So as I've detailed, the CT056 is available from usa.crystaltimes.net, and it's also available from seikomods.com. So it comes in this cardboard envelope branded with seikomods.com, has 56 on it because it's the CT056. On the reverse, it has a stamp which says pass, and this indicates that the crystal has passed quality control inspection. So inside the cardboard envelope, the crystal comes double wrapped with 2 layers of tissue paper, and that prevents the AR coating on the underside being scuffed and scratched in transit, and also prevents dust particles from contaminating it because it arrives sterile wrapped in 2 layers of tissue paper. And they also include 2 finger cots, which I'll show you. So these latex finger cots are fitted to your index finger and thumb, and the purpose of the finger cots, which are used by professional watchmakers, is to prevent smudges and fingerprints on the top side and underside of the sapphire crystal when you're fitting it with a crystal press, which I'll show you. The other purpose is it prevents you scuffing and scratching the AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal, so good to get the finger cots included. Now, Crystaltimes and also Seiko Mods also offer a rubber O-ring gasket which is specifically made to fit the Invicta Pro diver. So this CT056 Double Dome Sapphire crystal is made specifically to fit a plethora of Seiko watches and also the Invicta Pro diver reference 8926 OB, which is the black version, but it will also fit the Invicta Pro diver reference 9094 OB, which is the blue version. I'm going to show it to you fitted. But they also include this gasket. So this CT412 rubber O-ring gasket seal will fit both the Pro Diver 8926 OB, the black version, and the 9094 OB, blue version. I've reused the original Pro Diver gasket because it was in perfect condition. I was able to press out the crystal using my crystal press without damaging it or rupturing it, and therefore I was able to recycle it. But it is advisable to replace the rubber O-ring gasket when you fit a new crystal to a piece, because that reinstates the hermetic seal, and the Pro Diver has a hermetic seal of 200 meters, and I think it's better to fit a new rubber O-ring gasket. So this CT412 gasket is available from usa.crystaltimes.net for $10 US, and it's also available from seikomods.com for £5 British respectively. And lastly, one also gets this sticker which says Seiko Modder, has the Crystaltimes emblem and also United States flag, and then it has the hashtag for their socials, hashtag Seiko Mods Family. So if you want to share images on Crystaltimes and Seiko Mods socials, you can use the hashtag Seiko Mods Family. So I'll show you the original crystal, which I've removed. This Pro Diver crystal is made from mineral crystal. There's no AR coating, and it has a 1.5 times Cyclops magnifier. So the negative of this is it's mineral crystal, so therefore it's not as hard and scratch resistant as sapphire crystal, therefore it's going to be prone to being scuffed and scratched. The other negative is it only has 1.5 times. So to clarify, Rolex used 2.5 times magnification with their Cyclops magnifier, which is the industry standard. 1.5 times really does give negligible performance. The other negative is on the underside there is no AR coating, and as I showed you in my review, when you tilt the crystal at an oblique angle, it's like a mirror. It's highly reflective, there's a lot of glare, and the Pro Diver would really benefit from the use of sapphire crystal with AR coating because it would be harder and more scratch resistant, and also the AR coating would reduce the glare and the reflective nature of it. So the diameter is 30mm diameter, and the thickness is 2.6mm thick. Now that's different to the dimensions of this Crystaltimes CT056. It has the same 30mm diameter, which is precision ground, so it's a perfect fit, but this is thicker. It's 4.3mm thick, and that's due to the 2mm dome of the double dome sapphire crystal. So to clarify, single dome is flat on the underside, curved on the top side. Double dome is curved on the underside, curved on the top side. The benefit of double dome sapphire crystals versus single dome sapphire crystals respectively is with a double dome sapphire crystal one doesn't get the magnification effect, and it doesn't give the characteristic distortion when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle. So for example, if this were single dome and flat on the underside, it would be like a magnifying lens, and that would magnify the dial but also distort it. When you tilt it at an oblique angle, you would get that magnification effect. The crystal has a 2mm high dome, as you can see, versus the flat sapphire crystal, which was flat mineral crystal original, which is 2.6mm thick. So this is 4.3mm thick versus the 2.6 of the original. At the edge, it is 2.3 where the bezel is. So it's actually thinner at the bezel by 0.3mm, 2.3mm thick at the edge versus 2.6mm with the original flat crystal. Now, you can see the profile of the double dome is perfect. It perfectly matches the bevel, the flat bevel of the aluminium bezel insert. And it's just got a very slight lip, a very slight bevel on the edge of the double dome sapphire crystal, which projects slightly above the aluminium bezel insert, but it's lower profile due to being 2.3mm thick at the bezel versus 2.6 at the, which is the original. So I like it. It's got a very slight low dome, 2mm dome, and the thickness is 4.3. It does add some thickness to the piece, so this is something I want you to be aware of. I was critical in my review of this Pro Diver because it is a thick piece, and it's largely due to the deep bubble back exhibition case back. But this double dome sapphire crystal also does add some thickness. So to clarify, the original flat mineral crystal is 14.3mm. That's the thickness of the piece with the flat original crystal. This is now 16mm. So it's 1.7mm thicker due to the dome of the double dome sapphire crystal. So 14.3 originally, now 16. But I'm planning to mod this further with a Rolex style sterile stainless steel case back. That will reduce the thickness of this piece by 1.5 or even 2mm. So that will reduce it from 16 down to 14, which will be far more wearable. But aesthetically, looks much better with the absence of the 1.5 times Cyclops magnifier. And also it's got a nice low dome, 2mm isn't too high. And although it's 4.3 thick, visually it looks very aesthetically pleasing. AR coating works very well, reduces the glare of the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished applied indices and silver mirror polished Mercedes handset. So legibility is improved, clarity is improved. Also, sapphire crystal is harder and more scratch resistant. It's not going to be as prone to being scuffed and scratched. And I also like the curvature of it. So to clarify, the CT056 is available in two versions, blue AR coating and clear AR coating. This is the clear AR coating version. I have previously reviewed their blue tinted AR versions of their double dome sapphire crystals when I modded a Steinhardt Ocean 142 because it had a blue sunburst dial. Also used the blue AR coating version when modding a Casio Joro MDV 106 because that also had a blue sunburst dial. My opinion is, with blue sunburst dial pieces, the blue AR coating does look very good because the blue hue of it matches and it complements the blue sunburst dial. With other dial colours and glossy enamel black dials, I think clear AR coating works well, but on this occasion I opted for the clear AR coating versus the blue tinted AR coating because I wanted perfect clarity, and I really like the blue tone of the sunburst dial, which changes from electric blue to a royal blue, and also the aluminium bezel insert. So I opted for clear AR coating, but the blue AR coating is very aesthetically pleasing. Now, in order to remove the original mineral crystal, I use this Mobile crystal press, which is available from Amazon.ie for only €14. And I've used this since 2018 when I started modding watches, and I can tell you the quality, the reliability of it, the performance is excellent. As you can see, it uses nylon dies which do not damage the bezel, the case, and of course the sapphire crystal itself. And inside they simply unscrew. I'll show you one. So they have brass inserts, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus on it. And the brass inserts in the nylon dies screw onto this spigot, which is threaded, as you can see, so it's very secure. So each of the nylon dies, they have pressed in brass inserts, and the inserts screw onto the steel spigots, as you can see on the base, and they're all numbered in their sizes. So this is the 42mm, and on the reverse it's got a different size, 40. So it comes with a plethora of nylon dies, as you can see. Plenty of options. So this is suitable for every possible size crystal you're going to come up against, and I can tell you it works very well. The nylon dies, which have the brass inserts, screw on freely onto the spigot, and also on the piston, which pushes down. Just bear with me, it's a snug fit. I'll just unscrew it and show you the piston. The piston also has a steel spigot. Just bear with me, I'll put my glove behind it to get the camera to focus. So this is very durable, very reliable, and the alignment is correct. So the steel piston has a steel spigot on it, which is threaded, and the brass inserts engages very well, and the alignment is perfectly correct between the piston spigot, spigot, and also the spigot on the base, which is made from die cast steel, as you can see, which is blue painted to a good standard. So when you press it down, you don't need to apply much pressure, and that will press out the crystal from the case, and you don't need to remove the bezel or bezel insert. This is something I want to clarify. Often watch modders make the mistake of they remove the bezel insert and they also remove the bezel because they think that when they press out the crystal it's going to foul the bezel insert. Both the same applies to ceramic bezel inserts, sapphire crystal bezel inserts, and aluminium bezel inserts like this one. So they worry about damaging the bezel insert, and what they do is they remove the bezel insert or alternatively remove the bezel itself, complete with the inserts, because they don't want to damage it. But I have removed a plethora of crystals from Casio Joros, Steinhardt Ocean 1s, Seiko Turtles, Seiko 5KXs, Seiko SKXs, and I have never removed a bezel or a bezel insert. So if you select the correct size nylon die for the crystal press, you can actually press out the mineral crystal or sapphire crystal or hardlex crystal from the case without disturbing the aluminium bezel insert or the ceramic bezel inserts. So for example, I did not remove the bezel or the aluminium bezel insert from this Pro Diver. I simply removed the case back, removed the movement and the crown, and then I pressed it through the crystal through the bezel. And as you can see, there's no damage whatsoever. I didn't scuff or scratch the aluminium bezel insert. When I pressed it back in, reversal of the process, I simply pressed the crystal through the inside of the aluminium bezel insert, and as you can see, no damage. This is the benefit of the nylon dies, because they are hard enough to press out the crystal, but they don't deform under pressure. But the point is, they're soft enough not to scuff and scratch an aluminium bezel insert, a stainless steel case, and they also don't rupture the rubber O-ring gasket if you use the correct size. My advice to you is do not use a nylon die which is too large, because that will rupture the gasket, and also it could potentially catch the aluminium bezel insert or catch the inner edge of the ceramic bezel insert, and therefore you could damage them. But if you use the correct size dies, there's no risk of damage. Nylon is soft enough not to scuff and scratch the O-ring gasket and also the bezel insert. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my wrist. Now, as I've detailed, this has added some thickness to the piece, because the original crystal is 2.6 thick. This is now 4.3mm thick. So to clarify, the original Pro Diver thickness overall is 14.3, and that's due to the bubble back case back, as I've detailed. So original thickness is 14.3. This is now 16mm thick, due to the 2mm dome of the double dome sapphire crystal, but aesthetically it looks much better. You can see the benefit of the AR coating on the underside. This is clear AR coating versus the blue AR coating, but the legibility and the clarity is now better. It hasn't got the same reflective mirror-like look, the glare and highly reflective nature of the flat mineral crystal without AR coating. So legibility, clarity has improved. Aesthetically, I think it looks better without the Cyclops magnifier, because as I've detailed, the original 1.5 times magnification gives negligible performance. It doesn't really enhance the legibility and the clarity of the date complication. The double dome sapphire crystal looks better. Does have a very deep rehort, so that's a characteristic of the Pro Diver, but what I like about this double dome sapphire crystal is it's double dome versus single, and as I've detailed, one doesn't get the magnification and distortion effect one would get with a single dome sapphire crystal flat on the underside. This is curved on the underside and curved on the top side. Also, the curvature is correct because, as I've detailed, the original flat mineral crystal is thicker at the bezel. It is 2.6. This is 2.3, so it's 0.3 millimeters thinner than the original. The original has a higher bevel, which projects above the aluminium bezel insert. The edge of the crystal is more visible because it's 0.3 millimeters thicker at the bezel. This is lower profile. It's actually a better match. Crystaltimes have refined the fits because you can see it does have a bevel on the edge of the sapphire crystal which projects above the flat profile of the aluminium bezel insert. So you can still see the edge of the crystal projecting above the bezel insert, but not as much. It's not as tall because it's 0.3 millimeters lower profile. So curvature is good. 2 millimeters dome, perfect. And also I like that it's slightly thinner at the bezel. It's 2.3 versus 2.6, so they slimmed it down. Perfect profiling. The curvature perfectly matches the angle of the flat aluminium bezel insert. This is perfection personified. Visually looks good. Does add some thickness. It's now 16 millimeters, but as I've detailed, I'm planning on modding this further with a Rolex style sterile stainless steel case back, which should reduce the thickness by 2 millimeters or 1.5 millimeters. That will reduce this from 16 down to 14, for example. That will make it more wearable. But I think it's fantastic looking. Much prefer it. Also like that it's harder and scratch resistant versus the mineral crystal. I think it looks cleaner without the Cyclops magnifier, and the clear AR coating gives fantastic clarity. So no negatives to it whatsoever. What do I think of it overall in terms of quality and also value? Well, I've used Crystaltimes crystal since 2018 on a plethora of watches. Steinhardt Ocean 1s, Seiko 5KXs, Seiko SKXs, Seiko Turtles, Casio Joros, and now this Invicta Pro Diver. And I can tell you, I have never had a quality control defect with Crystaltimes crystals. The finishing is fantastic. The dimensions are precision ground. The AR coating has perfect clarity, both the blue AR coating and clear AR coating versions. And I've never had a problem with fitting them to pieces. They are precision ground. So for example, this is 30 millimeters exactly. It has the exact same dimensions as the original diameter. It's precision ground to 30, so therefore it is a perfect interference fit with the rubber O-ring gasket. I was able to press it in with a crystal press and it felt exactly the same, had the same interference friction fit. So I'm absolutely confident this has the same 200 meters of hermetic seal as the original 30 millimeter Pro Diver crystal, which is 2.6 millimeters thick. So they are well made and quality control is excellent. And as you can see, on the back of the envelope it has the stamp pass. So each of their crystals, before they're packaged and wrapped with tissue paper in sterile condition, they have to pass QC inspection. So they examined the crystals for flaws, and you can see that this one has perfect clarity. It's passed quality control. There's no defects, no flaws in the clarity of the sapphire crystal whatsoever. Also, there's no defects. There's no scuffs or scratches or imperfections in the clear AR coating on the underside. I also like that they come double wrapped in tissue paper to prevent any dust particles contaminating the crystal, and there's no fingerprints or smudges. And of course, as I've detailed, they also include the latex finger cots for your index finger and thumb to prevent you adding fingerprints and smudges or dust particles to it when you're fitting it. So it's excellent. Lastly, I'll just say I also recommend when you are modding a watch and also replacing the crystal, you use one of these blowers. These are inexpensive. They're available from Amazon, and the blower is good for blowing out dust particles, and of course that will keep the underside of the sapphire crystal sterile when you fit the movement and the case back. Lastly, I'll give you one more tip. And it's often a mistake that modders make, both when they're removing the Cyclops magnifier with a butane blowtorch, and also when they are fitting a sapphire crystal. So, first thing you want to do, if you want to remove a Cyclops magnifier from a sapphire crystal, for example, you use a butane blowtorch. But however, there are two mistakes that watch modders often make. They simply heat up the Cyclops magnifier with a butane blowtorch, and of course that heats up the Cyclops magnifier and then breaks the bond of the adhesive between the Cyclops magnifier and the sapphire crystal, and then it pops off. Sometimes you can use a scalpel, or you can prise it off using a toothpick if it's stubborn, but generally with the heat it causes the Cyclops magnifier to pop off itself. But what they do is they scorch the bezel inserts, and with ceramic bezel inserts often they're inlaid with white paint or alternatively BGW9, and what happens is the ceramic is heat resistant but the paint and the BGW9 superluminova isn't, and therefore they scorch it around the first 15-minute ticks and the 15-minute hour marker, and of course they damage the ceramic bezel insert, and also with aluminium bezel inserts they scorch the anodizing. So my advice to you is, prior to putting the heat on with the butane blowtorch, coat the ceramic bezel inserts with Kapton polyimide tape. So I'll show you what that is if you're not familiar. This is Kapton polyimide tape, and I've shown it to you in previous reviews. I use this on the lugs of watches when I'm refitting bracelets or straps because it prevents the spring bar tool and the spring bars themselves scuffing and scratching the mirror polished lugs of a case. Kapton polyimide tape has a high melting point of 300 degrees Celsius. So the benefit of it is it has a very high melting point. So for example, if you put the Kapton polyimide tape on the ceramic bezel insert or the aluminium bezel insert, when you apply heat to the Cyclops magnifier to remove it, you're not going to scorch the bezel insert itself, because the Kapton polyimide tape can resist up to 300 degrees Celsius, the heat of a butane blowtorch. That protects the white paint in the engraving and also BGW9 superluminova if it's a fully lumed bezel insert. That will protect the bezel. The other thing I recommend you do, and often watch modders make this mistake, what they do is they heat up the Cyclops magnifier, and that heats up the air inside the case. Now bear in mind the case is hermetically sealed to 200 or 300 meters, but what they're doing is they're pressurizing the air inside the case, because when air is warmed up it expands, but of course it has no room to expand inside the hermetically sealed case, so it blows out the crystal out of the case. They heat up the Cyclops magnifier. The heat rapidly heats up the Cyclops magnifier, but also heats up the air inside the case, and then what happens is the Cyclops magnifier blows out of the front of the case, and then they have to press it back in. You simply avoid that by unscrewing the crown and pulling it out fully, because what that does is that breaks the hermetic seal of the pressurized case. So what that does is when the air inside the case is heated up, it allows the expanded air to escape via the crown tube, and therefore it depressurizes the case and it prevents you blowing out the crystal in the front of the piece. So you simply unscrew the crown. When I am fitting a double dome sapphire crystal to a head of the piece, I press it in and then I refit the movement, and when I fit in the crown I leave the crown unscrewed. I press it back into the movement to engage it fully, but then I unscrew it and pull it back out. The reason why I leave the crown unscrewed is to allow for the air to escape, because when you screw back down the case back, regardless of whether it's a solid stainless steel case back or an exhibition case back, it has a rubber O-ring gasket, and again it provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 or 300 meters. But when you're screwing down the case back, you're pressurizing the air inside the case. The air needs to escape. So what you should do is have the crown unscrewed and fully pulled out. That vents the case via the crown tube, and it means that you can screw down the case back and reinstate the hermetic seal without pressurizing the air inside. Then, after the case back is screwed down, you can simply push back in the crown and screw it back down. That will reinstate the 200 meters of hermetic seal. It will seal the case hermetically. The crystal rubber O-ring gasket provides one hermetic seal. The rubber O-ring gasket in the case back is a second hermetic seal, and there are two rubber O-ring gaskets inside the crown and crown tube. That is the third and fourth hermetic seals. So that's the correct methodology. It will prevent you blowing out the crystal if you heat up the Cyclops magnifier, and it will also give a better hermetic seal when you're screwing down the case back to vent the case by unscrewing the crown. That's my advice to you. So I'm going to declare this excellent quality and excellent value at $39 or 40 British pounds, and also I'm going to declare this rubber O-ring gasket, the CT412, excellent quality and excellent value at £5 or 10 US dollars, because it is beneficial to replace the rubber O-ring gasket when you fit a new Sapphire crystal. It reinstates the hermetic seal to 200 meters or 300 meters respectively, and you can be absolutely certain your watch is now waterproof as per it originally was. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you. I'm going to declare this double dome sapphire crystal a champagne sapphire crystal for lemonade money. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Crystaltimes CT056 double dome sapphire crystal. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.